to all mother and father, and everyone watching this, will we not supply birth to a child that might be a public disgrace to our names, that is the tale of a church girl named Sandra. She was 19, but her coronary heart was like a flower that by no means knew dirt. Her smile ought to light up a cold room. And her voice become like water from heaven, soft, natural, and sweet every Sunday, while Sandra sang in church. The entire constructing might pass quiet, even the youngsters might prevent playing. Her eyes stayed, closed, her palms stretched high like a tree attaining for the sky, and tears would fall from the eyes of people listening. A few cry loud, some wept in silence. However, all were moved. Even old Mama Chenier, who in no way cried once, whispered, "This female is not regular." Sandra didn't put on makeup. She wore lengthy skirts that swept the floor like a humble queen. Her hair was usually covert. She walked gradual, talked slow, smiled gentle. She became by no means rude, never loud, whilst others joked, approximately boys. She simply smiled and seemed away. Her father, Pastor Paul Adams, stood tall within the pulpit and stated proudly, "Look at my daughter, evidence that God still makes perfect women." The entire church clapped. The antique ladies constantly prayed, "Expensive Lord, allow my daughter develop like Sandra." And the guys stated, "That woman will bring peace to any guy that marries her." She examined the Bible, find it irresistible. Was her diary? She failed to just realize verses. She knew what they supposed. Whilst her mom was sick, she failed to run to the chemist. She knelt beside her and prayed, "Oh God, heal my mom." And by using mourning, her mom become sturdy again. Human beings believed Sandra become crafted from the fabric of heaven, a golden baby, a shining light, a dove amongst crows. And they were not wrong. However, what they failed to know was that even the brightest moon has a darkish aspect, and Sandra's own become hiding quietly. Ready when Sandra got admission into the university, the complete church danced. Her father stated, "The Lord has performed it again." Her mother sang with a voice full of pleasure. They offered her new garments, a small gasoline cooker, a Bible with golden edges, and a smartphone for school. On the day she left, Pastor Paul prayed long, laying his hand on her head like a crown, "Pass and shine for God." He said. Sandra nodded. Her eyes have been complete of fire. She packed her Bible first, then her nightgown, then her verses printed on small white papers. Her bag become full of religion. In school, her hostel room had 4 ladies. 3 of them had been like city breeze, speedy, loud, complete of coloration. They wore brief attire, long lashes, and perfume that stuffed the air like rain in dry season. Their names were Doris, Amanda, and Lola. They laughed loud. They painted their faces. They came back past due with nylon baggage of fried rice and chicken with bottles that made funny sounds once they laughed. Sandra stored her nook neat. She pasted Bible verses beside her bunk. One stated, "Be no longer conformed to this international." Any other said, "Flee from each look of evil." She prayed each nighttime on her knees. Smooth voice hands joined. Doris would roll her eyes and say, "I am Holy Mary has started again." Amanda would whisper, "Sooner or later she'll be part of us." But Sandra simply smiled. "This existence may not last," she said one night. "God is looking." Lola laughed and clapped. "Our churchwoman has spoken." Clap for her. They mocked her. However, she didn't exchange. She nevertheless examined her Bible each morning. She nonetheless listened to gospel songs. Before going to elegance, she nonetheless called her dad and mom each Sunday after service. Her voice, usually calm, always natural, daddy modern message, turned into effective, "God bless you, my infant." Pastor Paul might say. Even when her roommates talked about the men they met and the cash they were given, Sandra kept her ears closed. She failed to envy them. She felt sorry for them. "Do not you want to enjoy life small?" Amanda asked one evening. Sandra checked out her calm, "I'm enjoying lifestyles. God is enough for me." They rolled their eyes. "You may get worn out soon," Doris muttered. However, Sandra became focused. However, she didn't understand that on occasion temptation would not knock loudly from time to time. It slips in like wind, quiet, gradual, and perilous. The whole lot turned into high quality. Till one day, it wasn't. Sandra sat on her host mattress, her phone in hand, waiting. However, no alert got here, no message from home, no call. She refreshed her banking app. Once more it showed 050. Her throat dried. She known as her father, no answer. She called once more, nevertheless, not anything later that night. Her mother dispatched a quick message: "My expensive matters are tight now. We are able to ship cash as quickly as we are able to please manage." Sandra held the telephone. Love. It was fireplace. Her chest felt heavy. She checked out her food shelf. 1 cup of rice, 1/2-ton sash of salt, no sugar, no milk, now not even a biscuit that night. She poured the closing rice into a bowl. She cooked it. Her belly growled like thunder. She sat via her bunk and drank it slowly, eyes closed, lips shaking across the room. Doris laughed as she opened a steaming plate of fried rice and shook. Amanda added out suya from a nylon bag. Lola danced with a bottle of juice. The odor stuffed the room like fragrance. Sandra's stomach turned once more. She pressed her wrapper towards her chest and whispered, "God will provide." Day after today, she borrowed money from her friend Grace. "Please, I'll pay you soon," she stated. Grace nodded. "No trouble, however, that is the remaining one, please." Sandra used the money accurately: 1 pint of rice, a few floor nut sachets of water that turned into all. However, by using the 3rd week, the rice had finished again. Her body felt mild, her steps grew sluggish, her eyes looked susceptible at night time. She could not sleep nicely. Her pillow heard her tears nonetheless. She didn't name domestic again. She did not want to worry them. She simply knelt by means of her mattress and prayed, "Father, please open a door for me." However, as opposed to a door, it becomes something else that opened something she in no way expected. That night, the room turned into shiny music, performed low. The ladies were dressing up again. Laughter stuffed the air like perfume. Doris danced in the front of the replicate, protecting a glittering gold. "Get dressed then." She became and dropped it on Sandra's mattress. "Put on it. Simply one night you'll consume. You may chuckle, no one will touch you. Just look pretty." Sandra looked at the get dressed. It sparkled like stars. However, she shook her head slowly. "Wide variety. I'm now not like that." Doris shrugged. "In shape yourself, church lady." They went on dressing up like movie stars. Amanda wore pink heels. Lola sprayed fragrance that smelled like sweet flora. Then they left, heels clicking at the corridor floor. The room went quiet. Sandra sat on my own. The light bulb flickered above her. She picked her cracked phone battery, become crimson, no air time. Her account nevertheless stated 50 Cabo. Her pads had completed. She folded tissue in her pant. Her lips have been dry. Her belly made sounds. She checked out the get dressed again. It lay there waiting. She stood, touched the smooth material, held it near, then whispered only this. As soon as Doris back minutes later to choose her forgotten lipstick, she saw Sandra keeping the dress and grinned like a cat. "I knew you'll join," she said. Before Sandra should trade her mind, Amanda sat her down. "Let's curl your hair," she said. Lola opened her makeup bag. "Do not move," she smiled. "We'll make you appear to be hearth." They labored, rapid brushes, powders, lipstick, fragrance. Sandra sat nonetheless like a statue. Her heart became beating rapid. After they have been accomplished, they turned the reflect to her. She blinked, the female searching lower back. Eddie had pink lips, shiny eyelids and pores, and skin that glowed like light. Her dress hugged her like it became stitched for her frame. She did not look like Pastor Paul's daughter. Doris leaned near and whispered, "You appearance risky." Sandra did not smile. She didn't communicate. She simply stared, due to the fact the lady in the mirror changed into a stranger. And that stranger was geared up to step into a world Sandra had most effective, judged, in no way touched by. 9:30 that nighttime, the black vehicle arrived, long, bright, with dark windows. The driving force failed to communicate. The song internal was smooth like whispers. Doris, Amanda, Lola, and Sandra entered like queens. Sandra sat at the brink, quiet, conserving her small purse like a protect. Her palms shook a bit. Doris surpassed her, a drink in a narrow glass. "Just sip. It allows you smile." Sandra took one sip. It tasted candy, but it burned her throat. She coughed, then smiled small. The car stopped in front of a large membership. The lighting fixtures out of doors blinked like stars fighting for space. Internal, the whole lot moved. Rapid music, loud smoke in the air, human beings guffawing, women dancing, men looking. Doris held Sandra's hand. "Do not be scared, you're safe." They walked beyond human beings, through a golden rope, right into a quiet region. Soft chairs, bloodless drinks, and one man stood up as they arrived. He changed into older beard, easy wristwatch, shiny like a replicate. His fragrance touched Sandra before his phrases did. "So you're the pastor's daughter," he said, smiling sluggish. His voice changed into calm, too calm, like someone who had finished this too frequently. Sandra smiled shyly. "That is Philip." Doris said. They sat. He poured her a drink. He talked. He requested her questions, wherein she schooled what she favored. He watched her like she changed into glass, waiting to crack. Sandra laughed at things she didn't locate humorous. She ate meals she could not even pronounce. She danced a bit whilst she were given tired. He held her by means of the waist and whispered, "Allow me take you somewhere quiet." They left the club. The hotel room changed into bloodless, too cold. Sandra stood within the center, her eyes extensive. The bed changed into big. The lights were dim. Her feet refused to transport. "I'll cope with you," Philip said on foot close. "You are safe with me." Sandra looked at the door. Her telephone become useless. She had no shipping money, no airtime, no person to call. She felt trapped. Philip reached for her waist. She flinched. He smiled and said softly, "Relax." However, his eyes have been sharp, his palms constant inside her chest. Her mother's voice rang like thunder. "The devil gives with one hand and takes extra with the other." Sandra blinked again, tears, because this was the price, and he, or she, did not recognize how to mention no after that night. Sandra didn't cry. She didn't communicate approximately it. She simply washed her face the following morning, wore her church dress, and went to class like nothing happened to her. Roommates looked at her and smiled. "She's one folks now," Doris said, winking, and actually she became. The following Friday they went out time and again. The subsequent Santa now not sat on the nook watching. She stood in front of the replicate, rubbing cream on her legs. She sprayed fragrance that made boys turn 2 times. Her clothes were given shorter. Her lips stayed crimson. Her stroll became slower. Like a cat with a mystery, Sandra have become girls in one frame. Inside the morning, she turned into the identical antique Sandra, Bible in hand, lengthy skirts, eyes closed in worship, her voice still gentle, her prayers still deep. She nonetheless joined the church fellowship, nonetheless sat in front, nevertheless shouted hallelujah. But while the solar went down the other, Sandra came out lipstick pink, like ripe tomato, wigs in 5 colorings, blue, gold, black, red. Her footwear clicked like a marching band. Her garments hugged her like secrets. She not waited for Doris to invite her out now. She dressed earlier than them now, and again, she even chose the club. "I heard this night's one is in Lecky, permits cross there," she could say, tying her lace heels. Doris checked out her with surprise. Amanda nodded in respect. Lola whispered, "This lady has modified." Sandra failed to want assist anymore. She had perfumes her mother by no means sold. She had 2 telephones, one for college, one for business, bucks in her handbag, gold earrings, dressmaker luggage. She did not ask her dad and mom for money once more, and that made them proud. Her father asked, "You are doing pleasant?" "Sure, Daddy, God is ideal." Her mother stated, "You are no longer lacking." "No, Mommy, I'm even supporting others." And they believed her, because Sandra had constantly been that child, the obedient one, the pure one. So they did not ask questions. They failed to note the small cracks, the way her voice modified, the manner her replies became shorter. However, of path, who could suspect a lady that still quoted Psalms, who might query a daughter that also prayed in tongues? No person, no longer her lecturers, now not her associates, not even her closest friend, Grace, now not to talk of her dad and mom. And that become their mistake, due to the fact, even when she got here home at some stage in holidays, she knew how to act. She wore long skirts, no makeup, hair tied in a bun. She woke up for morning devotion earlier than all and sundry else. She quoted scriptures simply, or even led youngsters' Bible lessons. And her dad and mom beamed. Her father might nod and say, "This lady is going instantly to heaven." Her mother could whisper, "You are higher than me at your age." In church, she turned into a celeb, a light, a flower that refused to wilt. She taught reminiscence verses to youngsters. She sat beside her father on the front row in the course of worship. She could close her eyes and raise her hands. Tears would roll, and those might comply with her into deep worship. Like sheep following a shepherd, all of us cherished her. Everybody trusted her. But as soon as she returned into campus life, the real Sandra returned. It became addictive, the liberty, the eye, the cash. And most of all, the strength men gave her something she wanted: phones, greenbacks, weekend trips. She now not needed to fake. Until faculty ended the day, she submitted her very last task. An abnormal fear gripped her home, wherein eyes watched every step, home in which her father prayed like thunder, domestic, wherein her mother woke at 500 a.m. to sing, worship. There had been no garments at domestic, no loud music, no smooth pillows in resort rooms, no guys calling her sweetheart, no cash dropping on the desk like rain on zinc. Still, she packed her things and entered the bus. When she reached domestic, pastor Paul hugged her tight. Welcome, my jewel. God has spoken. You'll now work inside the ministry complete time. The youngsters want your hearth. Sandra forced a smile. Yes, Daddy. The following day, she wore her long skirt. She led morning devotion. She studied the Bible with strength. People clapped, some cried. Even the elders said, "This one is born for ministry." Inside the morning, she helped in the church workplace. Within the evening, she led choir rehearsal. However, whilst night fell and every person slept, she changed behind her Bible. She concealed her makeup at the back of her prayer gown. She tucked her red dress. She tiptoed beyond her dad and mom room. She sneaked out into the night like a rat that knew in which to discover meat, and the streets welcomed her like a lost daughter. Men, nonetheless referred to as her, some knew a few antique. They favored that she become now pastor's daughter from the metropolis. They paid greater, they gave her something. Phones, shoes, even mystery flights. By morning, she returned home before cockcrow. She washed her face with cold water, eliminated all signs and symptoms of the night time, then stood again behind the pulpit, easy, calm, holy. Nobody knew now, not her father, now not her mother, not even the individuals who knelt. Even as she led prayers, however, she knew. And every time she lifted her arms to sing, they trembled. Only a little church was once her hiding place. Now it became her looking ground. Sandra stood on the front each Sunday. Main worship. Her voice nevertheless broke hearts. Her hand still rose like a dove in flight. However, something had changed, not in her, but inside the way the men checked out her. Married men, elders with gray beards, ushers with Bibles tucked below their fingers. They stared too long, smiled too wide. Their eyes did not live on her face. The first changed into Brother Felix. He sat at the 1/3 row every Sunday beside his wife and 2 daughters. His in shape turned into continually neat. His Bible always underlined. His amen continually loud. After a teenager's provider, he walked up to her. "You're actually anointed," he stated, protecting her hand longer than normal. She smiled courteously. "Thank you, sir." The following Sunday, he slipped a white envelope into her hand. "For lunch," he whispered. She blinked. "Sir, I simply take it." A small gift for a daughter of Zion. She took it. Inside was 50,000. 2 days later, a message came. "Brother Felix, God laid it in my heart to test on you. You look tired these days. Are you okay?" She failed to reply. The following message got here. The identical evening. "Brother Felix, my wife traveled. Come by means of after choir practice. We will pray together." She paused, then stated, "K." That Friday, she, wearing her longest skirt, carried her Bible, instructed her mother, "I am going to Brother Felix's house. He wishes us to pray." Her mom smiled. "You're such a responsible girl." However, she failed to pass there to hope enter his sitting room after the welcome juice and Bible reading. His palms determined her waist. Sandra didn't forestall him, and what came about subsequent changed into no longer quiet or holy. She left that night with perfume in her bag and extra money. Internal, her Bible, the woman who once feared the night time, become now carrying sin like a second pores and skin, even in daytime, even inner church. After Brother Felix got here, Elder Daniel, he changed into quiet, constantly wore white, sat near the front. He turned into a widower or wealthy, reputable. Human beings called him pillar of the church. He hardly smiled, however, when he checked out Sandra. Something in his eyes twitched. One Sunday, after provider, he stopped her near the church gate. "Younger lady, God is with you." "Thank you, sir," she stated. That evening, she got an alert. 200,000 from Elder Daniel. The message observed, "If you ever need peace, my house is calm, no noise, no strain." Sandra stared at her smartphone, her palms cold. She instructed her dad and mom the following day, "I'll be at Elder Daniel's residence. We want to pray for the kids' outreach." Her mother smiled and hugged her. "You are constantly operating for God. We are proud of you." Sandra smiled lower back, however it changed into a heavy smile like a pot carried on the head at Elder Daniel's house. There became no prayer, just gentle music, warm meals. And his hand slowly achieving for hers, she didn't forestall him. She did not say no. Then came Pastor Jerry Younger. Handsome assistant pastor, complete of fireplace at the pulpit. Human beings cherished him. He known as her one Tuesday afternoon. Allows have a private session. He delivered simply you and me to pray and plan. She agreed. That week she went to his office. It smelled like menthol and clean books. He locked the door softly. They sat. He opened his Bible. He examined a verse, approximately purity and purpose. Then he prayed. He laid fingers on her head. Sandra closed her eyes, however the prayer changed. His hand moved from her head to her shoulders, then slowly down her returned. She opened her eyes. He said, "Don't be afraid, this is non-secular masking." Then he hugged her, too long, too close, too warm, and she did not pull away. Now not that day, now not the subsequent. That night, she got a textual content. "You are special. God desires to use you, however best, inside the hands of the proper shepherd." Sandra didn't respond. She failed to need to, because via now the guys got here on their personal. They brought the money, the perfume, the greenbacks, the gifts, and he, or she, gave them silence. No longer yes, no longer number, simply quiet eyes and soft smiles. And her dad and mom, they saw nothing, because they nevertheless believed their daughter become, in the Lord's hands. Sandra's existence became smooth, too tender, like cake left beneath the solar. She now had 3 phones, none from home, 1 for church, 1 for men, 1 for silence. Her footwear got here from Dubai, her wigs from London, her baggage from stores. Even her mom could not pronounce greenbacks, slept under her mattress, wrapped in antique wrappers. Her financial institution account smiled every week. While she went out, she told her parents, "I'm going for mountain fasting." They believed her. Occasionally she said, "A sister desires deep prayer. I will be along with her for 3 days." Her mom smiled. "You're an excellent female." Her father placed his hand on her shoulder and stated, "You'll take over my ministry sooner or later. I can see it actually." Sandra nodded, her throat tight. They failed to note her new cell phone. They failed to ask approximately the brand new perfumes or the lace dress that value extra than her mother's month-to-month salary. They didn't ask why she was usually tired. Maybe they didn't see the lies, or maybe they did not want to. Sandra sang in church like earlier than she led the youth with robust hearth. However, while she closed her door at night time and eliminated the makeup, she sat on her bed and stared at her reflect. She cried, no longer loud, just tender, silent tears, her chest heavy like stone, her throat dry like sand. Her arms shaking, she whispered, "God, are you still there?" However, no answer came. Best the fans spun above her head, blowing air that couldn't cool her guilt, because deep down she knew her benefits didn't come from heaven, they came from pockets. And each pocket took a bit of her. One morning Sandra awakened with a pointy twist in her stomach. She rushed to the restroom and threw up her hands, held the sink. Her head felt hot, her knees shook like dry leaves in wind. Her mother knocked lightly. "Sandra, are you all right?" Sandra wiped her mouth. "It is malaria, Mommy, I will be best." However, days handed, she threw up again, and again. Her clothes stopped fitting her waist, refused to live flat. Her mother watched carefully one afternoon, even as folding Sandra's bed sheet. She determined something underneath the mattress, a small check strip, nevertheless fresh, still wet. She picked it. Her eyes grew huge strains. She rushed back to the room. "Sandra," she stated softly. "What's this?" Sandra froze, her lips trembled, her hands dropped to her facets. She did not talk no longer, but her mom sat beside her. "Speak to me. Who did this to you?" Sandra regarded on the wall, her heart pounded like drum in village festival. Then slowly her voice broke. It began in faculty, while Mommy stopped coming. "I was hungry, Mommy. I observed them as soon as her mom's eyes packed with tears. I tried to prevent, however they saved coming. Brother Felix, Elder Daniel, Pastor Jerry," she listed names. From church men with holy hands and dirty hearts. Tears rolled down Sandra's face like a circulate after rain. "I did not understand who were given me pregnant. I don't even realize who in charge." Her mother cried. She protected her mouth together with her wrapper and wept like a mom who just misplaced Her toddler, despite the fact that her baby was nonetheless beside her, however, she didn't scream, she failed to shout. She just held Sandra near and whispered, "Your father need to not recognize. Not but please not but." And that became how the largest secret inside the residence commenced to grow in silence. Sandra's mother offered new robes, huge ones, unfastened ones that concealed her stomach, like a sack hides beans. Sandra stopped going out frequently. She stayed in her room, prayed, quietly ate, carefully walked. Slowly, her mother watched her intently, every motion, each bite, every sound. They whispered in the kitchen, they prayed in corners. They planned nobody have to recognize. Her mother saved, pronouncing, "Just until we parent it out." But secrets and techniques do not stay small for all time. One Sunday morning, the sun rose bright and formidable. Church was full. The choir organized. Pastor Paul became glad his daughter might lead worship again. Sandra wore a long gown. She tied her scarf properly. She stepped forward, the microphone in her hand, the choir at the back of her. She closed her eyes. She lifted her arms. She started out to sing, however, halfway via the primary verse. Her knees buckled. She stumbled, then collapsed. Gasps crammed the church like thunder after lightning. Humans ran ahead. Her blouse lifted slightly. Her belly showed, not flat now, not small, no longer hidden anymore. Whispers were already jogging through the benches like rats in a dark house. Is she pregnant? How she's the pastor's daughter? No, it's a lie. It cannot be. Sandra opened her eyes slowly, her vision blurred. She heard her name in portions. Sandra being pregnant, disgrace, shame. They carried her out. Pastor Paul jumped from his seat. What is happening? His wife rushed to his facet and held his arm tight. Let's pass domestic. I will give an explanation for. However, it was too late. The fireplace had already stuck the dry grass, and the wind became supporting it. Unfold. That night, the church changed into quiet like a graveyard. No drums, no claps, no hallelujah, just heavy hearts and gradual steps. Chairs were arranged in a circle. Elders, deacons, pastors, ushers, participants, all waiting, all whispering. Pastor Paul stood in the front, shaking his Bible press tied to his chest. His spouse sat beside him, her face light, her headband pulled low. Sandra sat alone, head down, arms joined, stomach growing gently under her gown. Pastor Paul cleared his throat. "Sandra," he said, voice low like a dying candle, "is it proper?" She nodded slowly, weakly, "Sure." He swallowed, his eyes moist. "Who is accountable?" Silence. Then Sandra appeared up, her face was tired, her voice calm. "I don't know," she stated. "It is able to be anybody I've been with." Many gasps stuffed the airheads. Turned, a person whispered. What did she simply say? Sandra's lips did not stop. She began to name names one at a time. Elder Daniel. Human beings became to take a look at him. His fingers shook. Brother Felix. His wife covered her mouth and screamed, "Pastor Jerry." He stood and walked out, head down, coat swinging. She kept going, more names, extra reputable guys, who as soon as laid fingers on her in the course of altar call, guys who shouted fireplace on Sundays, girls cried, some fainted. The men did not speak. A few walked out in shame, others regarded down, frozen. Pastor Paul stood still. His knees wobbled, his fingers dropped, his Bible fell. He sat down slowly, no phrases, no breath, simply silence. Due to the fact the daughter he as soon as called light of the circle of relatives had end up the thunder that shattered his call. Sandra was the female. Mothers prayed their daughters would come to be. Now she became the woman they warned them about. Don't be like her, they whispered. She's the only that fell. She's the one that shamed the pulpit. Her pics have been eliminated from the church wall. The choir found a new lead singer. Pastor Paul stopped preaching for weeks. He sat on the front row like a stranger in his very own church. His eyes stayed on the ground, his lips stayed shut. Sandra's mother now not smiled. She not joined ladies' conferences. She no longer walked tall inside the marketplace. Humans regarded human beings, whispered, and he or she heard each word. Sandra stayed domestic. The curtains stayed closed. The Bible beside her mattress accumulated dirt. Her stomach grew quietly daily like a balloon that refused to burst. She sat alone, maximum instances, hugging her knees, observing the ceiling, the same palms that when lifted in worship now concealed her face in disgrace. The identical voice that once shook the church, now simplest, whispered to the partitions. And each night as the moon watched her from the window, Sandra could say the equal words again and again, like a damaged report. If simplest, they knew what I do after church, but now they knew. And the understanding had modified everything. I hope you loved the tale. If so, please like the video, comment what you learned from the story. And don't forget to enroll in the channel for greater spell-binding tales similar to this one. Thank you.